In Nicaragua, the counting process is underway after this Sunday's municipal elections, in which nearly 4 million citizens were summoned to vote. In the framework of the COP27 climate summit, Egypt calls for concrete measures and criticizes the fact that most financial contributions are not donations but loans. And in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the government announced a general mobilization to confront the advances of the M23 insurgent group, whose incursions have displaced more than 180,000 people in the eastern part of the nation. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. And now we begin with the news. In Nicaragua, the counting process is progressing after this Sunday's municipal elections, in which nearly 4 million citizens were summoned to vote. The electoral ballots arrived at the municipal counting centers, where the votes of each political party and alliance that participated in the elections are being counted, in order to make a national statistic. During the day, more than 3,722,000 Nicaraguans were summoned to the polls to elect 153 mayors and deputy mayors, in addition to 5,770 council persons. This is the fourth electoral process after the return to power of the Sandinista National Liberation Front government that was lived in an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. Now we continue. The president of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, called for the institutionalization of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, to take advantage of the favorable conditions that the region is experiencing. In statements to the press, the Argentine president highlighted the importance of the 7th Summit of Heads of State of CELAC, scheduled for January 2023, and urged the definition of a regulatory framework that will allow the organization to function better. Fernandez also emphasized that all steps taken should be based on unity with respect for plurality and diversity. He also recalled that his country's pro-tempore presidency of CELAC will conclude in 2023 and considered that with Mexico and Brazil as allies, there is an opportunity to give a solid impulse to the international mechanism. And we stay in this South American country because in Argentina, over 100 leaders of parliaments and social movements, also from 14 countries, held RUNASUR's South American Nations Group Constitutive Meeting. Since Saturday, November the 5th, the Plurinational Assembly to constitute RUNASUR under the guidelines of defense of life, cultural identity, sovereignty, anti-colonialism, and anti-imperialism takes place. This proposal has the objective of plurinational integration among the indigenous peoples, Afro-descendants, as well as social, trade union, territorial organizations, and social movements of the region. This Sunday, the conclusions of each commission and declaration on the situation in Latin America and the Caribbean were read out. In the next event will be a closing plenary in which the signing and proclamation of the document that will constitute the regional integration of a plurinational America will take place.
Our integration must be plurinational and led by our peoples. Regional integration is fundamental to achieve a horizon of social and historical justice. But we must also understand that in the face of the present crisis, it will serve as a shield to build and preserve peace and the good life of our peoples. Such an integration will be based on the recognition of plurinationalities, diverse regional identities that make make sense of Adiayala. Plurinationality does not admit euphemisms. It calls for a political construction radically different from multiculturality and other concepts.
Now we move on to other topics. In the United States, at least 9 people were wounded during a shooting in Philadelphia. According to the police, the incident took place on Saturday night when several shooters got out of a vehicle in the Kensington area of Pennsylvania and began shooting indiscriminately. The target of the shooters, who returned to the vehicle and drove away, remains unknown and under police investigation. Meanwhile, the wounded are in hospitals receiving medical attention and care. 7 of them are stable and 2 are in critical condition. We'll take a short break now, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. More news now. Leaders from all over the world are arriving to the Egyptian city of Sharm el-Sheikh to take part in the 27th conference of the Paris of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, also known as COP27. Attendees are being received by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Among the leaders who will address the summit representing Latin America are Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros, the Colombian head of state Gustavo Petro, Nicaraguan President Xiomara Castro, among others. Honduras President, I beg your pardon. Approximately 130 heads of state and government will attend the COP27, called the Implementation Summit. Discussions will focus on 3 main topics: fair transition to delivery, food security, and innovative finance, climate and development, paying special attention to Africa. And the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, stated at the beginning of the COP27 that the summit has a sense of implementation to lessen the damage caused by climate change.
This summit has a sense of implementation. Hopefully, we will achieve the implementation of so many agreements in order to mitigate the tremendous damage already caused by climate change on the planet.
And in the framework of the 27th Conference of the Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, taking place in the Egyptian city of Sharm el-Sheikh, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, met with his Algerian counterpart, Abdelmajid Tebboune, at the convention center, hosting the largest global meeting for the fight against climate change. The Climate Summit is an annual gathering that brings together nearly 200 countries to discuss climate change and how to address the issue. And the Italian authorities prevented on Sunday the landings in Sicily of a number of asylum seekers, as they did not consider vulnerable. The far-right Italian government has adopted a tough strategy against rescue boats operating in Italian waters. Interior Minister Matteo Piantedosi said earlier that those who do not meet the requirements will have to leave the territorial waters after rejecting safe harbor requests submitted by 4 charity vessels. The Humanity One, carrying 179 rescued passengers, was granted access to the Sicilian port, but there are other rescue vessels run by non-governmental organizations and carrying 900 people in total remained at sea. NGOs said people were sleeping in floors and decks, spreading infections with fever and scabies, and running out of food and medical supplies. Some asylum seekers even have been on the boats for more than 2 weeks. And also, a member of the migrant rescue group SOS Mediterranean warned of deteriorating conditions aboard a rescue ship that responds to asylum seekers in distress in the Mediterranean.
Agitation is evident among survivors that have been on board for 16 days now, and our teams are working around the clock to support these people that are suffering more and more from this extreme situation. All of the patients need proper medical and psychological assessment and care, and there's a high risk of deterioration as the medical team can only provide for basic health care.
Now we address other topics. In Russia, an attack by Ukrainian forces on the Kherson province has affected the power grid in at least 10 settlements. Emergency service teams are already at work to repair the damage caused by the terrorist attack on the Borislavka-Govt highway, which affected 3 reinforced concrete towers of high-voltage power lines, leaving more than 10 settlements in the region without electricity. The region's administration reported that the water supply was also temporarily disrupted. Meanwhile, authorities have asked local residents to be understanding and remain calm while work is underway to get back to normal. And the Russian Defense Ministry Igor Konashenkov said on Sunday that recent actions undertaken by the Russian forces had destroyed US, British and Polish mercenaries.
The settlement of Liman of the Donetsk People's Republic as a result of a high-precision strike by the Russian airspace forces. Up to 100 militants of national formations and foreign mercenaries were killed, including about 40 mercenaries from the United States, Great Britain and Poland, as well as 10 armored combat vehicles, 120 missiles of the American HIMARS multiple rocket launcher, 250 missiles of the Smerch multiple rocket launcher, and 2 transport loading vehicles were destroyed near the settlement of Krasnoyarmayesk Popsrok in Ukraine of the Donetsk People's Republic.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The government of the Democratic Republic of Congo announced a general mobilization of young people to confront the advances of the insurgent group M23. The country's army spokesperson, Major General Sylvain Ekenge, reported that the Congolese armed forces are already recruiting large numbers of young men to defend the nation's territorial integrity. It should be noted that the army and the groups were present in the east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo for almost 3 decades, many of them inherited from the wars that destabilized the region after the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. Advances displaced some 183,000 people in North Kivu province alone since October 20th and destabilized relations in Central America.
Mesdames et messieurs de la presse, bonsoir. Très heureux de vous retrouver à nouveau.
And in Somalia, at least 15 people were killed in an insurgent attack and suicide attack this Saturday in the capital Mogadishu. According to local media, the attack was perpetrated by a member of the jihadist movement Al-Shabaab, who targeted a training center located in a former candy factory south of the capital. Among the dead were army recruits. Thousands of people were injured and they are already receiving medical attention. This attack comes a week after a series of explosions near the Somali Education Ministry, which left at least 100 people dead and more than 300 injured. Uganda's health authorities announced the extension of the containment country's Ebola outbreak. The Minister of Health, Jane Ruth Eisen, announced that in order to prevent further spread of the disease within the districts of Mubende and Kazanda and to protect the rest of the country, the measure has been extended for an additional 21 days. According to the latest official data, the number of confirmed cases of Ebola in the country stands at 132, while more than 53 fatalities have been recorded. The measure includes a traffic ban inside Mubende and Kazanda and a curfew from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. local time, as well as the closure of places of worship and entertainment. In Tanzania, at least 19 people died after a plane of the Tanzanian company Precision Air crashed in Lake Victoria. According to the authorities, the incident occurred when the plane was approaching the airport of the city of Bukoba, located in the north of the country. At the moment, 26 of the 43 people on board of the plane were rescued. The fire department is carrying out a rescue operation in cooperation with the fishermen in order to find the remaining people. And according to Angola's Foreign Minister, Tere Antonio, the foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda agreed to accelerate the efforts to de-escalate tensions and resolve their political conflicts.
The tripartite ministerial meeting, preceded by the joint meeting of external intelligence and military security services, had the main objective of strengthening the dialogue between the authorities of the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Rwanda, as well as resuming the process of implementing the Luanda Roadmap of July the 6th, 2022. At the end of their discussions, the ministers agreed on the following aspects: the maintenance of the dialogue and political consultation mechanism between the authorities of the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Rwanda as a way of resolving the political crisis between the two countries.
And former Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan left hospital on Sunday, 3 days after being shot in the legs in a failed assassination attempt. The shooting and Khan's accusation that his successor Shehbaz Sharif was involved have significantly raised the political temperature in a country that has been on the boil since he was ousted in April. Former Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry said that Khan had been discharged and the local TV channel showed him wearing a blue hospital gown as he left the Lahore clinic by wheelchair. The former Prime Minister was wounded by gunfire aimed at his open-top container trucks as he led a political party convoy through thick crowds in the eastern city of Wazirabad on Thursday. One man is in custody following the attack, which government officials have said was the work of a lone gunman and a very clear case of religious extremism. And the Chinese Ministry of Commerce condemned Canada for banning Chinese capital from 3 lithium mining companies and other critical metal sectors. Authorities of the Chinese Ministry of Commerce denounced Canada for disruption and blocking normal bilateral cooperation. The government of Ottawa ordered Chinese companies to abandon their stakes in Canadian lithium mining companies and other critical metal sectors. In response, the Chinese ministry urged Canada to stop politicizing economic and trade issues and to guarantee a fair and equitable environment for all investors. Beijing also warned that it will take measures to defend the legitimate interests of its companies. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.